Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to episode number 17 of the No Punches Pulled podcast. Jay's Fight Talk on his way. Myself and Mr. Liam Tully will kick up proceedings. How are we, Liam? Are you well?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Looking forward to another week.
Yeah, absolutely. The train keeps rolling on. As we say, we've finally recovered from the lack of sleep at the weekend. The review shows in the can from yesterday. All roads are leading towards Riyadh next week, but we've got a few stop-offs on the way, should we say. We've got Monte Carlo for the Matchroom DAZN show this weekend, headlined by Murodjon Akhmadaliev, MJ, as people know him, against Franco. That's for a WBA interim Super Bantamweight Championship. And then you've got Natasha Jonas against Ivana Habazin in a unification for the welterweight female strap. So they're the two headliners. They've got Jaime Munguia, I believe, fighting in Mexico at some point over the weekend as well. Mr. Dillian White is back in action on Sunday in Gibraltar, I believe. So, not quite as star-studded as next weekend, or not quite as probably deep cards as what we've seen this past weekend. Big up Håkan Johansson. Thanks for tuning in. I know you've just filmed with Liam, so we'll look out for that on STBX tomorrow. Håkan's a nice one. Hope you are. And big up Luca as well. Hope you well, my friend. Yeah, Luca, I'll be watching, and I think the lads as well will be doing live watch along to the Matchroom DAZN card on Saturday. So you have the main event, MJ Franco, like I just said. Then you've got Gary Cully against Maxi Hughes, which should be a good fight. Chev C4's fighting for the European Cruiserweight Championship. Beatrice Ferreira and World Championship action as well. Evening, DJ Pat. Hope you're well, my friend. Evening to the two champs, he says. To get used to that.
We want that every time now, mate. You set the bar.
Yeah. For me, Luca, it's the Matchroom DAZN card. Although if I'd imagine Hearn and Shalom, or Frank Smith and Shalom, will have a conversation that the two main events don't clash. I would say that's on the agenda. So potentially we'll get to, I'd imagine the DAZN card would go first and Boxer will go late on the main event. That would be my prediction. But again, look, we'll see how it pans out. Chev and Maxi, two of my favourites. Looking forward to it. Plus MJ. Yeah, it's actually a good card, Luca.
Looking at it like this, mate, remember Monaco's an hour ahead. So I reckon we might get the main event around 9:30 our time, 10:30 Monaco time. Yeah. So just by sheer fact, it's an hour time difference may save the main events clashing.
Well, definitely. Do you know what, mate? That could work. If the main event is at that time, we might even see Price and Jonas fights, because that'll be the co-main and main event, won't it? But look, I'm not overly fussed about the Boxer card. We'll cover it. I've
got an opinion on it to share in a minute, mate.
We'll get into the look. We'll start with Munguia and what's going on in Mexico. We'll wait for Jay until we get into the because I know Jay's a big Tasha Jonas fan.
Joe Gallagher fan, mate, not Tasha.
A massive Joe Gallagher fan. Yeah, we know that. Right, yes. Yeah, so Munguia's fighting against the Frenchman Sarace. I think that's how you say his name, Sarasi, in Tijuana. It's a bit of a homecoming for him. We don't need to cover it much, but fair play to Munguia. I think it's his fourth outing this year, Liam, when I was doing my research on it. I know this isn't his best opponent. I think he fought the European silver belt in his last fight, the EBU, but he's undefeated. Is he never left France? I think that was what I saw when I was...
Yeah, never left France. Look, there's two schools of thought to go with Munguia. You lose to Canelo, which everyone knew you would, and your big padded record finally gets exposed. You leave Oscar and Golden Boy, and you end up with...
Oh, Luca, I love it. Sorry, Liz.
I'm just sorry, it took me a second to... you leave everyone's favourite Oscar De La Hoya and move over to old Grandpa Bob, as I call him tonight. And I'll be really honest, as glad as I am to see him fighting again, he's now had two knockover opponents that are there just to pad his record.
Yeah, Eric Bazinian was a knockover last time out as well.
Now, Jaime Munguia, regardless of how padded his record was a world champion at two weight classes, had been in with a who's who of fighters. Liam Smith is obviously one of them that we'll know on these shores. And now he's regressing. Look, it's great he's going back to Tijuana. It's the first time he's fought in Mexico, I think, since 2015, 2016, in and around that time frame. But if he does this and then goes back into big fights next year, then he'll shut me up. But I'm starting to wonder what the plan is with Top Rank with Munguia.
Yeah, like why
they seem to be happy to get him out, But these opponents are doing nothing for him after losing to Canelo. Can't imagine the pay is good either after a Canelo pay, though.
No chance. Yeah, it's very strange. Neil, knock him over, and that'll be that. I think we'll quickly have a chat on before Jay comes about. Yes, Hawkan. Loads of boxing before the weekend. Tasman fights from Australian Pro Box tomorrow night. The WBC convention and Salita on Thursday. Yeah, absolutely. Myself and Liam are actually gonna cover a couple of the fights on a watch along for the Aussie show tomorrow. It's on sort of 11 p.m. midday. For a main event in the UK. It's Connor Wallace is fighting in that one against an undefeated South African. So yeah, we'll have a look at that. We'll do a live watch along for that. Plenty of other cards on Pro Box and WBC in Hamburg, I believe, isn't it, in Germany? The convention this week. So yeah, good stuff, Hawkan. Dillian White's back in Gibraltar, Liam, on Sunday evening. Ebenezer Tete is his opponent. He's lost once. We remember he was bombed out in a round by Mr. Daniel Dubois. It's a bit of a nothing. White returned against Christian Hammer, didn't he, in that random hotel in Ireland last time out?
It couldn't be recorded. No one could record it.
Yeah, it was recorded on VGA or something like that, on cassette. And then he's fighting Ebenezer Tete, who is just a ridiculous opponent. What I've heard, he wants to fight Lawrence Okoli or something like that. But what's Dillian White's 35, 36 now? What's his MO? What's his plan? Evening, David Rupert. I hope you're well, mate. I like the fact Mungie is constantly busy and earning, putting champions to shame. Look, there is that to it, Dave. Actually, yeah, that's a fair comment, definitely.
What is Dillian White's MO? He absolutely screwed himself when he failed those drug tests before the AJ rematch. Let's be really honest. Even if he lost to AJ, he probably would have been offered Moses Atalma, Joe Joyce, Johnny Fisher, possibly at this point with what Johnny's doing now. There were opponents there for him. Instead, he's failed a drugs test. We still don't know the outcome of that, which is why he had to fight in Ireland under an Irish license. And now he's back in Gibraltar where he had the Povetkin rematch. I saw a tweet earlier from, I can't remember who it was from, saying Dillian White is probably the best product of the Sky boxing hype machine there ever has been. I'd say that's slightly harsh. There is some talent there from Dillian White, but whatever renaissance he was going to have in his career, he absolutely bombed. And now he's having fights to stay relevant. He's not being spoken about by any British promoters, I can only assume, because of the fact he's on a secret ban, or they're still waiting for the findings to come back.
They're saying contaminated supplement. I don't know what the official...
Which is the excuse he used back in 2011 when he was banned, when he was 4-0.
So that was the B sample and all that jazz, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, Dillian White will come through Tete this weekend. If he gets lined up for Lawrence Okoli or even Moses Atalma, I'm not mad about it, but Dillian White's days at the top table were ended when he hit the canvas at Wembley. And then ended ended further when he tested positive, just 8 days out from the AJ fight. Well, we found out AJ's before the fight, so I'll watch it. I'll watch it on Monday morning when I'm hungover after a Christmas party. But it's only, it's not wetting my juices, so to speak.
Yeah, look, I agree with that. It's going to be a knockover. Let's see what happens next for White. There's not really too much further to cover on that scrap whatsoever. Look, we may as well then go into where should we start? Should we start at boxer or should we start at
Liverpool, mate? Get the crap out of the way and move into
Liverpool, right? Yeah. So I probably wouldn't. I like Stephen McKenna. I think he'll be in I think it's just maybe slightly over a 50-50. I don't know fully, but his fight against what's his name last time out, Laws. Yeah, that was phenomenal. Looking forward to seeing him back out again. Like say, and we said to Luca a minute ago, I'm going to prioritize the DAZN card at the weekend for sure. But that would be a fight I'd look at. Lauren Price, when you look at her opponent, she's defending a WBA, IBO, and Ring Magazine.
No Ring Magazine, mate. It's just WBA and IBO.
I saw it was Ring Magazine somewhere, but anyway, because I thought she beat what's her name, McCaskill.
It's all a mess, mate. I mean, getting in before Jay comes in and bombs the card. I'll get in early. 4 weeks notice for a card like this. justified by the fact it's only in the exhibition centre. The ticket sales aren't that great. You can still get 2 or 3 rows from ringside when I had a look on Sunday evening, just as a point of curiosity. On the one hand, we slagged Boxer off for not doing anything in the UK the second half of this year. So at least they're giving us a card. But then on the flip side of that, they're giving us this card. You're giving us Price and Jonas on the same card, co-main and main. We want to see them together. We know it's coming in March or April next year. Why are we having to wait? I mean, Joe Gallagher had a massive rant about Ben Shalom's treatment of not only Tasha, but of some of his fighters. There was fighters in August after the Barnsley card that were promised dates in October, 2 in October, 2 in November, and none of them materialised. Other than the Adam Azim card, which again was thrown together at the last minute for the O'Hara Davis cards. It's just, look, Top Rank look like they're leaving Sky and they're going over to the Zone. Boxer's contract is up at the end of 2025. I do worry that we may just see Boxer treading water next year, trying to just see out the contract, knowing it's not going to be renewed. It doesn't do anything for me, this card. If this was the only action this weekend, there's a high chance I would watch it on catch up if I wasn't with you.
Yeah, it doesn't whet the appetite at all.
Doesn't
this
do anything
Boxer
for
card
you.
in Liverpool, does it?
It does nothing for you. Stephen McKenna is probably the fighter I'm most excited to see. The only thing that makes the Lauren Price fight interesting is the fact her opponent has 3 first-round stoppages, which is unheard of.
Yeah, then you look at her opponent, that
was my next point.
Yeah, into her opponent and found out some decent facts. So if anyone hasn't heard about who Lauren Price is fighting, let me just find. Oh, here we go. So they're both 7-0. Price has only got 1 stoppage. Her opponent's got 6. Bexy Mateus, I think that's how you say it. She's got 6 wins by knockout. Like you said, 3 in the first round. But she's fighting in a scheduled 10-rounder for the first time. She's never been in a scheduled 10-rounder in her career, and she's getting a world title. That is at the qualifying criteria to fight for a world title. Is it never left your home country, I don't think, and never been in a scheduled distance fight, the championship. So how on earth do you get a world title shot on the back of that?
Let's call this what this is. This is piss poor, atrocious matchmaking from everyone concerned, from the WBA and IBO to allow this opponent to get in the ring with Lauren Price, from Boxer and Ben Shalom. How have they actually sold this to Lauren Price? Because if, say, Tasha slips up and loses on Saturday, that big domestic fight is gone, isn't it? How have they sold this to Lauren Price? Because if Tasha's fight, there's a bit more jeopardy in it. Thank you, Hawkan. There's a bit more jeopardy in it.
I'll take my apology later, Liam. Don't worry.
Yeah, there you go, mate. I thought I must have misread someone. So anyway, how's it been sold to Lauren? Because Lauren is going to win on Saturday. Tasha should win, but she's in with a fellow world champion, so there's more jeopardy. It just is piss poor all round. I'm really disappointed in it. And I just hope that both girls win. Otherwise, what they're trying to set up for, I would assume, the M&S Bank Arena next year will be up in smoke. And then what will Lauren Price do? She'll be left hung out to dry.
Yeah, that's right. That's there you go. Luca's right. Say what you want about the IDF. They wouldn't have allowed that shite that we're going to see on Saturday. That is correct. DJ Pat says, sorry, Shalom did pay a cherry pick for Laura. Yeah, Lauren Price has got an absolute cherry. She actually might get a stoppage. But it's only the second time in a... Oh, here we go. David Ropelope. There's always one, mate. There's always one. Take that title shot over beating 0-1 Francis Ngannou. Yeah. Do you know what, Dave? You are bang on the money there, mate.
You are bang on the money. But it's just a mess, isn't it? It's just... it's frustrating because we had the good of boxing with the Magnificent Seven format last weekend, and I say the good of boxing. The main event was a good fight out in Puerto Rico. We've got something phenomenal and historic to look forward to next weekend in Saudi. And then we've got the little Japanese monster doing us all a favour over our Christmas Eve beers at lunchtime. And then you've just got this in the middle. And I think it reflects more on where Boxer are at in terms of the standard of cards they're able to put together.
But it feels like they were backed against the wall and they had to do it.
They had to get...
They're going to make a loss on the card, or almost, it's kind of like we've just kind of got it out.
Yeah, they had to do a card. Ben Shalom probably saw that Joe Gallagher interview, knowing how Joe Gallagher's fallen out with Eddie Hearn in the past, and thought, shit, I can't afford for that to be me. I've got half of his stable on my cards, and thought, right, what can we do? Because this card was announced with a month's notice. As Hawkan said to me when we were talking earlier, he's sure both girls, or all 4 girls for the 2 main fights, knew about it since around end of September, October time. So why have we been left with this card in the venue it's in Liverpool that seems to have just been patched together at the last minute? Not disrespecting GBM at all, but they put on better qualities of cards at 4 weeks' notice.
Yeah, exactly. With less budget, absolutely. Yeah, I do agree with that. We've seen it a million times. We've seen good cards from GBM this year. We've seen good cards from other, lesser small hall promoters as well that are better than some of the cards. And I'm not just digging out Boxer. Some of the Matchroom cards haven't been good enough this year either. To be honest,
Boxer's best card this year was probably their first card of the year, which was Jonas? Aziz and Buatsi.
Was Jonas Mayer not the first one of the year?
Okay, yeah, Jonas Mayer was. Sorry, yeah, that was. Those first 2 were probably the best cards they've done this year, and then since then it's gradually gone down, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, mate, it really has.
Gradually's being kind.
Yeah, absolutely. Jones's price would be in London. Hawkan says if both win on Saturday. Yeah, probably makes sense. What do you guys want to see for Lauren Price in with next year domestic round robin? Yeah, I would rather see that probably than you've got Sandy and Jonas there, don't you? For if Cameron moves up as well, which I've been hearing.
The Tasha fight in the autumn, and then depending what goes on with Sandy, either Sandy for the 3 belts or Sandy if she gets a WBO back in the summer would probably be the way to go. I think it's how you keep people interested in her as well. Boxer also don't have the pulling power probably to bring over as international names in the female game, do they? So
yeah, look, but Boxer have done good things for female boxing. I think Ben Shalom said that he wanted to do an all-female card at some point again, like he did for the Clarissa Shields. And big up to Muscle Brown. Thanks for tuning in, my friend. Hope you're well. If Boxer had not done this fight with Tasha, she had gone to Matchroom and get a fight. She wants big fights, still not with Boxer. Yeah, look, I know
she's
Tasha's 40. Yeah, she's 40 years old. She's got 1 or 2 fights left. Or one or 2 years left, probably. She's a freak of nature to be competing at 40 years old.
She wants the biggest fights available. We want to see her in the biggest fights. I agree, Hawkan. It was a great main event. We discussed it briefly, didn't we? Yeah, you just want to see her have the biggest fights. And this kind of feels like after such a fantastic main event in January, one, it's a shame she's had to wait 11 months for another fight, but just under 11 months by the time she gets into the ring. And secondly, it's a shame it's not the fight that has been spoken about since April when Lauren Price beat McCaskill. Because let's be honest, Tasha was working for Sky that night in Cardiff, and she said, "I'm be ready to go by the back end of the summer." Ben said, "Yeah, that's fantastic. I want to do a end of summer card, and we might get it at the start of spring 2025." But I kind of don't feel like holding my breath over it.
No, definitely not. Pinheiros, WBA and IBF mandatory. DJ Pat says that could throw a spanner in the works for the domestic round robin. Absolutely. Liam, we've done our bit on price. We've said about that. Unification in the main event then, Jonas versus Habazin. Any thoughts on that particular matchup? It's WBC and IBF, I believe.
Yeah. Look, if Tasha wasn't going to get the big domestic fight, I'm glad she's going for another belt, because these are the type of fights she needs now. She doesn't need fights with nothing to gain for her. Okay, you can say the only thing to gain in this fight is another belt, but when you're the age she is now, when you're wanting to define the legacy you are, 2 belts here, plus what Lauren Price has got, makes a much bigger fight next year. Her opponent picks up the WBC title in April of this year. She's known to British fans for fighting Terry Harper on a week.
And Shields as well. At least she's been in with a certain level of opposition.
She fought Terry Harper after Terry Harper, Sahelia Brackhurst was called off on the day of the fight.
Yes.
Hawkan reminded me of that earlier. So she went in on 10 days' notice and lost on points. I think it was 97-93. And against Clarissa Shields, she lost 8 rounds to 2. So, look, when she stepped up to the highest level, she's fallen short. There's nothing wrong with that. What the question is, I asked to Hawkan, and I want to find out myself. Contentious decision against Michaela Mayer. For me, she arguably lost that fight. I think I scored it 96-94 to Michaela.
I scored it to Maya. Yeah, I did. I scored it to Maya, definitely.
She's now 40 years old, inactive for 11 months. Is she suddenly going to have fallen off a cliff face? And bearing in mind, she's fighting up to get to 147 as well. At some point, either the age or the increase in weight is going to be a factor in this fight. So when is those two things going to come together? Will it be this fight, or will she make it through this to get to Lauren Price? That's the question for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay's Fight Talk in the house. How are you, my friend?
Sorry, I'm late. I've got dad duties. I've got sickness in the house.
Oh, you're all right, mate. Don't worry. May as well get your thoughts in, Jay. We're about to move on to the the DAZN card in Monaco, but we've had our say on Lauren Price. But I want your thoughts on Jonas versus Habazin. Yeah, Luke is with us still. May have won the fight.
Against who? Sandy Ryan?
No, against Jonas. Rumor is that the IBF
Jonas never lost a fight ever.
Well, we did have a little chat about your affection for Natasha Jonas. You can watch that one back a bit later.
Scroll up through the comments.
Column is for Boxer, what they will do then for Lauren Price versus Jonas. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you there, Pat. So yeah, Jay, Habazin, Jonas, main event, Boxer Saturday night. What do you truthfully think? Feelings aside.
Yeah.
It's a unification, WBC, IBF.
Yeah. Shit fight. I mean, but that's all they've got. She's one of the other champions. Never heard of her. No one's ever heard of her outside of her own country. You two are lying if you say you've heard loads about her. You might have seen one, maybe two fights.
Terry Harper. That's all I know of her when she fought Terry Harper last year. That's
exactly so. Look, Tasha has screamed for a fight. I think she was on the verge of potentially leaving Boxer. She was that pissed off, I think. It was not a secret that she was pissed off. She was sat on the sidelines watching, people get fights and fights be made, and she wasn't talked about in any of these fights. Age is not on her side. She needs to be having these fights. She needs to be consistent. She needs to be fighting regularly. She's the wrong side of 40 to be waiting and fighting once a year. She can't be waiting. She needs to be fighting this unification fight and then making a big push for maybe another one of the two of the belts, because she's on the last 9, isn't she? She's on the back 9. She's ready for going to the other side of the camera, I'm assuming. She gets a bit of TV work, doesn't she, on Sky? She talks well. She's knows a lot about boxing. She's been in the sport for a long time, amateur and pro. So yeah, I'll watch it. I think calling it shit was probably an overreaction because the other girls are world champions. So to be as dismissive of that, I was wrong, and I'm wrong. So yeah, I mean, I expect Tasha to walk through her, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think there's a hint of a stoppage there for Tasha as well. Yeah, I know what you mean, Håkan. She has lost at any kind of time that she fought Cecilia Brackhouse, Clarissa, Terry Harper, and she's lost every single time that she's been in, with the girls that are real quality. So yeah, look, we'll see. We're going to be on the DAZN show. We're going to move on to that now.
Can I just say one thing? Just saying that I can't stand when people separate a stoppage loss and a points loss. The fact that she's only been stopped once for me is irrelevant. Every time she's stepped up, she's lost. Whether she's been knocked out or not doesn't mean she's any better or worse than what her record states. I don't believe that a knockout loss, because let's be real, people get caught cold. Lennox Lewis, for example, one of the greatest heavyweights that's ever lived, got knocked sparko twice, beat the brakes off both of them in the rematch. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's any worse. It's just something that happens. In fact, if you flip that, to lose on a bad points decision could be seen worse as being just hit, caught and knocked out. You can get caught, bad luck, wrong timing. Whereas if you get outpointed 11-1 or 10-2 or 12-0, I believe that could be more detrimental to you as a person, but also could go, look worse on a record. So I think for me, just a loss is a loss.
Yeah, I'm with you. Right, so let's go to DAZN, then Monte Carlo. So headlining it, Akhmadaliev versus Franco. We'll start with the British interest before we head up to that one. So I mean, you do have another female world championship fight on there, to be fair, don't you, Liam? Beatrice Ferreira I don't know what the bout order of the night is. I believe Cully and Hughes will be chief support. I think that would probably be. I think that's the order that they put it in.
I don't know. Isn't it Chev Clark for the European chief?
Well, it's listed as Cully against Hughes. But
we'll find out, mate. I mean, like I said earlier, the fact that it's in Monaco, it's an hour time difference, probably means by at least 9:30 we're getting the main event our time. So it's a decent enough card. Look, these Monaco cards are never full of household names. They're never the most spectacular, but it's one of the most luxurious and probably weird settings to have a boxing fight in. 2,000 people at most. Everyone's there in their dinner suits. You got royalty up on a balcony watching you. It's a once in a career experience, probably, is when they starts. So and they always deliver. Last year, Joe Cordina was lucky to keep hold of his world title. We had that second round knockout in the featherweight or flyweight fight, didn't we? As well?
That was Nonsinger against Correal.
Yeah, so they always deliver moments. As I say that, I'm having flashbacks to Derek Chisora and Caballero, which was a snooze fest. But on the whole, it's usually a good event, and we normally get some moments.
Bivol as well. Bivol was on one of the Monaco cards.
Bivol absolutely. What's it called? Decapitated an Australian, Trent Waterhouse, I think it was.
He did. Yeah, Luke is right. It is. It's a good fighter card rather than tickets.
It's a trade card. It's
like Martin Murray in Monaco.
Probably. It's a trade card, isn't it, Luca? And that's what we like it because it's a trade card. We like the fighters on it. And Cully Hughes has the potential to be fight of the weekend across all of boxing, not just this card. It's a fascinating matchup. For me, I'm not completely sold on the Diva still. I feel like if he's going forward and can get his punches off, he looks fantastic. But as soon as he's got an opponent that sits on his chest or throws stuff back at him, he kind of unravels, doesn't he? He falls apart. He doesn't look like he ever has a plan B. So Maxi Hughes is going to be there all night. He only knows one way, Maxi Hughes. And if he could be all kinds of wrong for Gary Cully. So we're gonna find out a lot about Gary Cully, I think, on Saturday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with Luke's comment here as well. Not often we would say it, but he definitely would have, for sure. So we'll start with, I guess we'll go Chev Clark then, first of all. Boys, I'll get your thoughts on it. He's challenging for, it's a vacant belt, I believe, the European Cruiserweight Championship. He's had a steady progression, Chev, to be fair. I didn't think he looked great last time out. He was on the Pacheco undercard. I remember watching it against Apochi, but he was coming in with a banger, wasn't he, Apochi, on his record. He banged out Ellis Zorro before that in what was a close fight up until the stoppage. Mosquea, I've had a little look at him. He is undefeated, 15-0. I think, again, Liam, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's ever fought outside of France. I know Monte Carlo in France, he's
only fought outside of France or Belgium once, and that was in Slovakia, so he literally just crossed over. So he stays in quite a nice little area.
Yeah, he doesn't look up to much, if I'm being completely honest. But maybe I'll be wrong, but I expect Chev to get the business done. And, he's 33, 34 now. He needs to move on quick if they're going to make a world title push anyway at Cruiserweight.
Yeah, look, Misaka is the European silver champion for whatever that's worth. And when I said this to Hawkan, he educated me that a fighter that wins a European silver title then is guaranteed a top 4 ranking. So, look, he's in the top 4. That's how he's got this position. Matchroom lobbied for Chev Clark to get a shot at the vacant title, and it was granted by the European Boxing Council. So that's fantastic. For me, Chev Clark is on a certain progression. I wouldn't want to see him in with any of the current crop of cruiserweights. So your Zerda Ramirez's, your Opetayes, your Billum Smith, etc. I put him right at the front of the queue for the next generation. So picking up a European title and then going on to fringe world level for next year, ready to pounce in 18, 24 months' time. This is the right move for him. Too often we moan about fighters coming out of the Olympics and being protected till they get to 15, 20-0. You can't say that with Chev. He's already beaten Tommy McCarthy, started last year to make him 7-0. He's now won a British title against Ellis Zorro, who poor Ellis got flatlined twice in a row by Opetaia and then by Chev Clark. And he answered some questions out in America, whether it was he didn't do the weight right because of the jet lag, whether he was holding something back because of the punch power of his opponent. He still found a way to win that fight, didn't he? And he deserves credit for that. So to now be going for a European title, I like it. I like the progression. I'd rather see this fight now than another 5 or 6 knockovers or layups where we know the outcome. Put him in and test him, because once he's got the belt, he can then maneuver himself around into certain positions, can't he? So
yeah,
I don't think Misaka will be up to too much on Saturday. I mean, 15-0, 9 knockouts looks impressive, but similar to what we were saying for Lauren Price's opponent, dig a little deeper into those records and there's not a lot there. I mean, his own amateur career, he was 1-4. He had 5 amateur fights, won the first one, lost 4 on a spin, and then decided to turn pro. So read into that what you will. He's decided if he's going to take punching in the face, he'd rather get paid for it than be doing it in the amateurs, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sound like a right mardy ass as normal, but I've never been sold on him. I know he turned over a load of fanfare, and I keep waiting. He's C4, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for him to show us what we've been told he can do. He just flatters to deceive for me. He makes hard work of fights that he's supposed to be going to go in there and show us all. And, you know, I just don't see, like you said earlier, he was in a tough fight with Ellis Soro. No disrespect to Ellis Soro. Ellis Soro's shit. I'm sorry he is. He's not. I mean, Jaya Pataya, absolutely. I know Jaya Pataya's leaps and bounds above him, but these are the kind of guys that he's meant to be gunning for, the world champions, the European and the world champions. He is levels and levels and levels and levels below all of them. I don't think he'd beat the likes of Jack Massey.
It's a good fight, actually.
Yeah, I think Jack Massey would beat him. I hope he rams these words back down my throat and goes on to be a unified world champion. I'd love nothing more than that. I just think he's very well marketed. I know he sells a lot of tickets, and that always helps, doesn't it? If you've got a decent following, you know, they'll market you because they make money from you. I'm not saying that's all they're doing with Chev, but I just don't. I'm not sold on him yet. I'm yet to see anything that's made me really sit up and take notice. And I do that. I watch fights looking for something, you know, to cling on to give me hunger to want to watch him and watch the progression. And at the minute, his progression is sort of plateauing. I'm not seeing him climb up on this trajectory towards, you know, British, European and world titles. And for me, he's just doing the same hamster wheel motion.
Yeah, look, you just mentioned Jack Massey. So Jack Massey obviously won this European belt back in June at Selhurst Park against Chamberlain, didn't he? Vacated it to go into the Opataya fight. As a first defence, Jack Massey would be the perfect opponent, and it's sort of that fringe world level that I spoke about earlier. Look, Massey, by his own admission, would say he's now realises he's not in there with the top boys that are at cruiserweight at the moment, but him against Chev Clark would be a great fight. It would sell well for starters, which is what you need. You don't want it done in a half-full arena. And it would ask questions. Jack Massey's been there, done that, got the T-shirt. He will hopefully come back a better fighter as well from the Opataya experience. And if Chev Clark can beat someone of Jack Massey's ilk, that sort of shows that maybe he is, maybe slowly, but starting to make the upward trajectory, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think he gets it done. You know, Massey just vacated that belt. I think that makes sense for both of them. But let's see. We'll move on to Maxi and Gary Cully then. David Roper hopes that saw Max in the GBM concept. He landed a shot from the gods to beat an unknown Greek opponent. He did. He absolutely flatlined him. Could be the right time to Cully to get a Wilton name on the resume. So, yeah, look, Maxi was over in America, wasn't he? Got bombed out in 4 or 5 rounds by Zepeda. He got robbed against George Kambosos in Oklahoma. So, you know, fair play to him. He's going to make a good bit of money probably on some of them cards at the back end of his career. I'm really not sold on Gary Cully. Jose Felix took his O. Lewis Crocker went and dealt with him in 2 or 3 rounds in Belfast like any fighter of that level should. I don't think he hits very hard, Gary Cully, from what I've watched in a few of his fights. I know he outboxed, was it Reece Moldy he fought fairly recently and he outboxed him.
Well, that didn't outbox him, mate. That was a split decision. Mold had him in trouble for the first fight.
He looks the part. Listen, he looks the part. He wears pink shorts. He's got the neck tats. And
he's called the diva. He's got it all.
You know, I think...
I'm not sold on him. I'm not.
Well, look, Maxi Hughes is one of these, right? Maxi Hughes, depending on what mood he's in and turns up, he's either world level or he'll get beat. There's no sort of middle ground with Maxi. Maxi, he's fighting now because he got a couple of good results, didn't he? And he got a load of marketing and exposure off that, and his brand increased. Then he retired, and then he came back. Maxi Hughes has still got enough for me to beat Gary Cully. I think he could beat Cully, not half-assed, because that's been disrespectful to Cully. But again, as I've just said with Chev, Gary Cully, he's not as good as he's been made out to be, I don't believe. I mean, he's been exposed a couple of times. He struggled a couple of times with people that, did you not say, were it split decision against?
Split decision against Mold, yeah.
Yeah. Mold's decent, but you know.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Shizlak is GBU mandatory, Orkan said. Yeah. Who did he fight against Shizlak? That really rings a bell. He's fought one of the Brits, hasn't he?
Willem Smith, someone like that.
Yeah, it's definitely someone. I'll pull it up here. He's fought Tommy Akoli. That was it.
Akoli beat him for the world title, didn't he?
Yeah, defended his world championship against him.
I think Tommy McCarthy fights at the weekend, does he not? He's got a fight due soon.
1st of February, it says his next fight is Tommy McCarthy. But yeah, look, sorry to cut you off there about Gary Cully. Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I just think he looks the part, doesn't he? He has a fancy chinchilla bloody ring attire, and he's covered in tats, and he looks like an absolute killer. But up to press, when he's in a proper fight, I think he struggles. He's another front foot fighter that looks really good if his opponent's backing off, tucking up, and not throwing much. And he's because he's really long into for the weight as well. He's tall and long and rangy, and he looks the part. But I just don't think he's got it. Again, I'm happy to be proved wrong. This is not being me being dismissive. I'm merely saying it as I see it. And for me, I don't believe he's at a level yet that if Maxi Hughes turns up and he's anything near 75-80%, he'll win that fight. He will win that fight.
Yeah, mate, I'm in complete agreement with you. I said similar earlier on. I'm not sold on Gary Cully. If he can't get his shots off, if he can't fight on the front foot, he starts to unravel. He starts to look disjointed. He starts to look amateurish in some kind of ways and tripping over his feet in the way he's getting caught with shots. And yeah, Dave from Rope-A-Dope said it. If Maxi Hughes is suddenly just tailing off in his career, then Gary Cully is about to pick up a former British and IBO world champion on his record, and it's going to look really good for him. But if Maxi Hughes is still there, which I believe he will be, Maxi Hughes will give him kissings, and I think Maxi Hughes wins. Because I'm not sold on Gary at all. Look, neck tattoos, pink fluffy shorts, nicknamed the Diva, dances into the ring. He's the absolute showman that you want to sell, like you said, Jay. But you lose to someone like Jose Felix, who was then beaten by Lewis Crocker. And look, that's sort of the level we're at here. That's where we're at. If Crocker and Cully are seen by some as being on a similar level at the moment, I believe Crocker's a long way above him.
Crocker's way above for me.
Yeah, I agree with you as well, but some would make the argument that he is. Well, look at how they both dealt with a similar opponent. Cully got stopped because he tripped over his own feet and was made to look stupid, and Crocker put on a masterclass. Maxi Hughes can win this fight easily. He's still with Sean O'Hagan, as far as I believe, so he stayed with the team that's helped him get to the heights he's had in his career.
That's Josh Warrington's dad, isn't it?
Yeah. Similar to Ryan Walsh, but not a victory in the sense that if he wins this fight, he can go on and get another big name, possibly a British or European title shot. If he loses, then he will retire. That's kind of the position he's at. Yeah. And sometimes a fighter that's got their back to the wall like that, like what Walsh has when he fought on the GBM card, Reece Mould again, there we go, is a dangerous fighter because they believe that everyone's writing them off, but they know they've still got one performance left. Maxi Hughes is time to show it. You don't lose to Zepeda, come back on a small hall GBM card and beat an unknown opponent and then lose in another step up if you want to get more shots. He has to be winning on Saturday night, Maxi.
Yeah, I think if Cully is not, this is what I'm saying, Maxi Hughes could win that fight at 80%, and Gary Cully has got to be at 100% to win that fight. And if he's anything less than 100%, he'll lose that fight because, you know, Maxi Hughes could go in there and make it really easy. If Maxi Hughes comes in at 100%, I think it's not a walkover, but I think it'll be fairly simple to navigate himself a win. But Maxi Hughes can also go in there at 60%, Cully's in there at 80% and it be an all-out war and one of them eke out a win. I think Max Hughes is going to win the fight anyway. And I think the problem is it's a long way to fall for Cully to lose at a fight. I know we're bigging up and talking up Max Hughes' chances, but we're looking at it from people who've watched boxing for donkey's years, and we're looking at it from an inward perspective. Look at it from an outside perspective. People that merely tune in on a Saturday night and they'll tune into the big fights. They see this flash kid and the older statesman that's nearly ready for retiring. In fact, he retired not 6 months ago. And they'll mention that on the broadcast, won't they? Because it will be very pro Cully. Because Cully, they're using Maxi Hughes as a name. You know, he got ripped off in a world title fight. And, you know, they'll use all that narrative, won't they? And they'll big him up. The problem is that if Gary Cully don't turn up, then he could get his ass handed to him. Yeah. I've got a funny feeling that it's going to be a dogfight and one of them will eke it. And I think Maxi Hughes will come out victorious and go on to maybe another world title fight or another big fight off the back of this. Because Maxi Hughes can win this fight and jump 2 or 3 levels because we already know where he's at when he's on it. Whereas Gary Cully's sort of a crossroads fight for him. Excuse me. I know it's very early in his career to say that. What I mean is,
I can't lose again, though. Yeah, he can't lose conclusively again.
It's a long way down. He might get dropped if he loses. He could get dropped and find himself back on the small halls as such. I doubt they'd do that to him, but you never know.
Yeah, we've seen this year with how Eddie's treated. Joe Cordina comes to mind. That
Eddie don't give a shit now.
Eddie's in
a position now where he don't care about hurting feelings, and I'm
not saying
he had to. I'm not saying he's ever been bothered, but previously he didn't have the backing of people like Turkey who could just dole out money and make shit happen. Eddie had to manipulate situations. He had to tickle egos. He had to negotiate with people. He don't necessarily need to do that now, hence why he's, you know, blanking world champions. Not just blanking them, but mugging them off. He's mugged Joe Cordina off. Whatever way you look at it, he's mugged him off. And he's done that recently to a few people, you know. So I wouldn't be surprised if Cully lost, if he either got dropped or just ended up on a curtain jerker on a, you know, another card early 2025.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate.
MJ's main event in then, boys. Murodjon Akhmadaliev, former world champion, lost his only fight via an SD to Marlon Tapales in a unification, who went on to lose to Inoue, which made him undisputed. He's facing Ricardo Espinoza Franco. It's for the WBA interim super bantamweight world championship. You know, you look down Franco's record. He's lost to Daniel Roman, who was former world champion. John Riel Casemiro stopped him, his only career defeat via stoppage. You know, we saw what he did to Charlie Edwards all them years ago as well. Casemiro is a quality operator. He has been for a long, long time. I haven't seen enough of Franco to you know, forge a real opinion on what's going on. MJ, I think, is really quality. I think he was off that night against Tapales, and he still lost a split decision. For me, he's the man at 1-2-2 that can, you know, hold you know, not beat Inoue. I'm not going to say that, but he can definitely ask Inoue questions that he hasn't been asked before at super bantamweight. But I'll get into it a bit later on with a development that we found out this week with relation to Inoue's next fight. Why I don't think the MJ Inoue fight will ever happen. But yeah, I guess either of you, you know, any interest in the fight at all?
I mean, yeah, we'll watch it, won't we? But it's not a fight that any of us heard and went, wow.
It's an interesting seeing MJ at the end of the day. Look, he's had 12 months out of the ring through injury, contractual disputes, and all sorts going on. So just seeing him back in the ring is a positive to take. But Franco is overmatched massively in this fight. He's in it off the back of his WBA ranking, and they've kind of gone down it and went, right, who's in the rankings that we can, you know, get MJ back in a win against? And that's what they've done here. Look, and he would then be interim champion to one of Inoue's belts. Whether we ever see that fight is another question, but if MJ will want to go out and make a statement, so people are going, I'd love to see Inoue fight MJ. How good a fight would that be? I mean, look at what he's done. That's his job on Saturday night. It's not to labour to a 12-round points victory. It's to go out and get an emphatic
statement.
Yeah, like Pat said, yeah, completely agree with that. Yeah, I just hope that we see him.
I mean, he has to. He can't not. If he
it's not up for debate.
Victory, man, it sets him back. It sets him way back.
Yeah. It's just, like I say, 12 months out of the ring. It's good. He seems settled with Matchroom now. The contractual dispute's over. Let's hope it now rolls into a big 2025.
Momentum.
Obviously, Inoue is the golden carrot. He's what everyone wants. But if he ends up going out to Riyadh season, that's probably just as good financially for him. Even if the fights might not deliver, at least financially, the incentives are there. And hopefully, if Inoue does move up, the belts become vacant, I'd back MJ to pick up 2 or 3 of them quite handily.
Yeah, definitely. Right, then we'll move into the news. I think that's probably enough previewing for this week. We've done a decent job there. Let's stay with Inoue. My frustration is I want to see Inoue against MJ, but it's been, somebody, I can't remember who reported it, but apparently this David Picasso is going to be the next one for Inoue in April. He's going to fight in April, then he's going to do Junto Nakatani, apparently, which is the fight we want to see, a Japanese mega fight. Pat said Inoue v MJ will never happen if they avoid Duck MJ. Basically, if happen, it'll be under Riyadh season. Yeah, I want that fight. Like, no offense to David Picasso, he looks a real good talent. I watched his last fight. He was on the Mayweather exhibition card, the last one. He looks a solid contender, but he's not going to beat Inoue. He's got nothing for Inoue. MJ can genuinely ask Inoue problems. Now, on the flip side of it, if you top rank and Bob Arum, then is there a potential if you fight MJ and, if Inoue has an off night and MJ pulls off the unthinkable, then you lose your Junto Nakatani fight, don't you? No one wants to lose that, myself included. We need to see that fight. So I get it, but at the same time, that's the fight for me at 122 pounds, Inoue versus MJ. We're never going to see it. It's not happening.
It is. And look, it's frustrating because they're going to make the Picasso fight, but that's going to be a fight in America before he comes back to Japan to fight Nakatari. It's just, I know he's top ranker co-proing him with, I can't think of the name of the Japanese promoter, but it's a co-pro deal. But Bob Arum still harps on about Inoue needs to crack America like it's the 90s, early 40s. What he does in Japan, the 65,000 people on a Monday that went out to watch him in the Sapporo zone against Tapales, that it tells you everything you need to know. The fact 25,000 people went on a Tuesday to watch him fight TJ Dehenny. Why does he need to go over to America for? He doesn't. Yeah. He is one of the few people that can say no to Riyadh season money. And it's not because he's too proud to go over to Saudi. It's because he's actually making as much money on his own, even without Turkey.
The problem is with Bob Arum Bob Arum's 137 years old. And he forgets that it's not the 70s or the 80s or the early 90s where everything had to break America. Music, sport. You'd not made it unless you cracked the States. The world's a much more accessible place. It's a smaller place, and what I mean by that is, we can look at the fact that us three are sat here now, different parts of the world or different parts of the country, simultaneously having a conversation. The world's a lot more easy, accessible now through the internet, TV, streaming, etc. So you don't have to break America to make it in terms of finance or marketability or brand. Bob Arum is trapped like Don King. I know Bob Arum's involved with Hearn and whatnot to a degree, but that's a lot of that's his team. Bob's the figurehead. They just wheel him in.
Todd DeBuff does it all for Top Rank.
They sit him ringside and then they wheel him out. Try not to let him speak to anyone because he'll say something mental or he'll spark up a joint or because he's 90 old. He don't give a shit anymore, does he? Why wouldn't he?
He was 94, wasn't he, the other day? He's literally.
I think I asked and you confirmed it. But look, ultimately, I knew he don't need to do anything. No. He could box in China for the remainder of his career, sail off into the sunset, a multi-weight champion, multi-millionaire. Right?
China.
The only thing.
Japan.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm ill, man. I can't even fucking think straight. But ultimately, he don't need to leave his backyard, right? They'll come to him with truckloads of money and decent fights. No one's going to look at him any different. He's beat everyone they've ever put in front of him. Everyone's the next test, the next test, the next test. He's been tested once, and that was when he got cut against Nonito Donaire. Other than that, he's boxed.
Neri had him on the deck, to be fair, but
But once he found his rhythm, it was fairly comfortable for him. And he got the result, didn't it? You know, he don't need to do anything he don't want to do, and I don't believe he'll do anything he doesn't want to do. He can't speak a word of English. He's not even trying to speak a word of English. It's like the Brazilians in MMA. They look at Anderson Silva speaks fluent English. Barely hear him speak English because he doesn't really have to. He's big enough in terms of a brand, and I think in a way he'll do what he wants. He's boxed in America, hasn't he? Has he boxed twice in America?
Twice.
Yeah, he has, yeah.
Yeah, he's not asked about.
He's boxed in Glasgow, for God's sake.
In America. Everybody knows who the monster is. Everybody in boxing, you say the monster, everybody knows who you're talking about. That, for me, is cracking the world market. He's the most popular little man out there, or one of the most famous little men out there in terms of boxing.
Oh, he is, yeah.
I think he's already cracked. He's cracked the markets he needs to. He's in with the Saudis now. They've given him that bloody mental, what were it, 15 million?
Yeah, just to sign as an ambassador. Yeah.
Just to have Riyadh season on his shorts. That's all that's about. And look how much he's getting.
Insane.
You know, so I think if we see him box outside of Japan again, it'll be in Saudi.
Yeah, I think he will at some point. Look, the money's insane. But speaking of Top Rank, anyway, we'll stay on Top Rank. Rumors this week that their ESPN deal with it coming to an end, that they're potentially, and you know, it's potential. There's no, but we heard the potential with Frank Warren joining DAZN, didn't we? And then look how that laid out. Potential for Top Rank and DAZN to be in negotiations. Any thoughts on that?
Makes sense. Every Queensbury's moving there, Top Rank moving there makes sense. Golden Boy are over there. Everything is moving over to the zone and one platform slowly but surely. And Top Rank will argue they're probably now one of the last household name promoters that aren't on the zone, with Queensbury announcing their move over. And as I said, Golden Boy already over there. So it makes perfect sense. And the way us as 21st century human beings consume content, it's through streaming, it's through apps, it's not your terrestrial box so much. Okay, I know they have ESPN Plus in America, but the point still stands. Having a satellite and tuning into your TV, you do that to get onto your apps as opposed to getting onto your subscription channels now. So it's just moving with the times, and it's bringing us closer to hopefully the bullshit excuse of, oh, that's on a different network, we can't do that fight. It's bringing it more and more together and further away.
Yeah, do you think it happens?
Can only be a positive. It can only be a positive.
Yeah. Do you think it happens?
Yeah. Money talks. The zone will offer enough money to make it happen. ESPN, what's ESPN's interest in boxing? I mean,
they're not bothered about boxing anymore, I don't believe. I think
for God's sake.
MMA
there's a question for you from Dave Roperdo.
Nothing. I think they'll wait him out. I think they're going to wait Al Heyman out.
That's also a fair point as well.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to give him a big... I think they'll make him an offer, but I don't believe it's going to be hundreds upon hundreds of millions. I think they'll make him an offer for his stable to come across, and if he tries to negotiate, they'll just say, all right, see ya. And they'll freeze him out. Al Heyman always fought his own fighters, didn't he? But they've all fought each other now. They can't do that revolution anymore. There's no fights to make within BBC.
He's Burnham, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia. Yeah.
It's the likes of Tank and those kind of fighters. They're going to get pissed looking over the wall, seeing the likes of Crawford and them stacking money and getting these big fights. All the fighters are over on DAZN, and I think they will wait him out. I don't think they'll offer him any. I think they'll offer him a measly, like, I don't know, $50 million or whatever, which I'm not being flippant about $50 million. It's a heck of a lot of money, but I don't think I don't think it's going to work out in Al Heyman's favour. I think they'll just wait him out and get his fighters cheap.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
The reality is, enough of Al Heyman's fighters are jumping ship and coming over to Top Rank, Matchroom, Golden Boy, etc. already. So yeah, give it another 18 months. The majority of the fighters you want will already be over there. But yeah, look. Top Rank, you only have to know that Saturday night's card was delayed, I think, by half an hour because they were waiting for college football to finish so they could put the broadcast on. I remember staying up to watch...
That's your ESPN for you.
Yeah. Kell Brook when he fought Terence Crawford. And again, after the prelims, the main card was delayed by about 40 minutes because the college football went into overtime. Boxing isn't a big thing for them. They put more...
Not like it is here.
No, the emphasis on the college football. They would never let that happen to a USC event. You bet your bottom dollar they never would. USC will never get delayed like that. On. Yeah, it's on. But just that's the example. They prioritize college football over professional boxing. So their interest is dwindling. And Todd DeBuff isn't stupid. He may have to explain how an app works to Bob Arum, but at the end of the day, Bob just says yes and signs the piece of paper. It's not 100% down to him anymore, is it? Todd DeBuff runs that operation.
He does. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think that they're definitely fair points, especially the one Jay made about the waiting Al Heyman out. I think that's a distinct possibility as well.
Amazon Prime deal only runs till the end of 2025 as well. So realistically, you wait for that deal to run out and you pick up fighters that way too. So
yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think we'll see a long drawn out process for the Al Heyman job.
Al Heyman has a problem with Amazon / Prime. They sell basically Amazon pay-per-view. Only one who's dragging the numbers is Canelo, and there's not enough. Yeah, look, 100%. Pat, that aligns with everything that Jay just said as well about potentially waiting them out. Right, Riyadh season next weekend. Usyk versus Fury 2. Israel Madrimov no longer on the card. So Boachuk Madrimov is off. About 4 days after the Madrimov Virgil Ortiz fight is announced for February the 22nd. I'm not saying anything. He's got acute bronchitis.
I fucking called it. Laughed at me about this is. I told you it would happen.
Israel Madrimov hero to zero within 4 days. So anyway, he's still on February 22nd. He's off. Ishmael Davis, fair play to him. I know, Jay, you've got a relationship with Ishmael Davis, so I'm sure you're delighted for him. Well, yeah. Sorry, you're not public with it yet. No,
not yet. No.
I'm sure you're
Christmas.
I'm sure you're delighted for Ish, and yeah, like Luke said, I watched an interview with Eddie Hearn actually about Ishmael Davis. He said, he's struggling before the Kelly fight, and now with this Boachuk fight, he's going to be able to do it like.
Told him, man. I said, look. I got to know him through him beating a family friend, Troy Williamson's family to me. So I was pissed at him beating him. But as I've done with other fighters that have boxed Troy, I've taken an active interest in their career. Just, I don't know why. You feel as though you know them because they box somebody that you know and whatnot. But me and Nishi have got mutual friends as well. I never knew him before. I knew who he was, but he's trained at a gym where my brother's trained, and we've got mutual friends. So it was easy to make a connection with him en route to him fighting Troy. And I gave him a bit of banter and we had a bit of back and forth. It's all fun and games. And I did say to him when he lost to Kelly, because obviously he took it pretty hard. It was his first defeat and he felt as though he didn't perform to the best of his abilities. But, it was a short notice fight. And I said to him, listen, just keep your shit together and the big fights will come. I know it's a bit cliche, but I meant it because, as he said himself, they obviously see something in him to be offering him these fights. This is life-changing for him. This is exactly why boxers get into the sport. Yes, there's legacy. You want to win belts and you want the big glamorous nights, but ultimately the prize fighters, and you do it for the biggest prize. And here we go. So, yeah, I'm over the moon for him. This is what dreams are made of, aren't they? You get the call. Stay ready, man. Stay ready.
Definitely. We'll get into that fight. But Jay, Lucas asked you about Troy versus Heaney. What do we think?
I'm sorry, but I don't believe Heaney wants it. I'm not going to say he's afraid of the fight because I don't believe he is. I don't believe any professional boxer or amateur boxer.
Just think Troy. I love Troy, and he's been so generous to us through yourself, Jay. Obviously, giving his time and everything. Unfortunately for him, the position he's in right now, he doesn't have, and he says it openly himself. Darren interviewed him the other day. Good interview.
Risky a fight for anybody. He doesn't bring anything to the table.
He doesn't have a belt. He doesn't. Unfortunately, he's a tough night's work with little reward for people, and that's he's never been stopped. He's tough as hell. He'll stand in front of you on your chest for 10, 12 rounds, whatever the distance is.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
It's tough night's work for anybody for minimal reward.
Unless they could put a bauble, a shiny bauble on the top, and I'm gonna contradict myself now because I'm one for calling this shit out, but it needs something. It needs a belt or it needs an eliminator. It needs something.
If Denzel vacates the British title, which is likely with the path he wants to go down.
I mean, they're both former British champions, but unfortunately, Troy's coming off 3 losses.
Yeah, I think.
I know what they've
ordered. Heaney 3 is more likely for the British, I think, than Heaney against Troy.
Yeah, look, on Ish Davis quickly before this, it's the attitude that we always say
I
we
think
want
so
to
too,
see from.
I agree. Sorry,
Yeah.
Luke.
Agree with Luca as well. It's the attitude we say we always want to see from boxers. So Ish Davis this year on 8 days' notice, and it was 8 days' notice because it's when it came out, then said, I'll get in and fight Josh Kelly. No issues. And the last 3 rounds, cut Josh Kelly and won 2 of those last 3 rounds.
Josh was hanging on for me.
Yeah, in the last round, he was bloody, wasn't he, Kelly? And he looked a bit ragged, didn't he?
And Josh Ish has said himself since that fight, I wish I started earlier. I wish I trusted my gas tank to start earlier. Okay, you haven't got 8 days now. You've got 15 days and you're going out to Saudi to take on this opportunity. You just got to applaud the attitude. And his stock can only rise from this. Even if you fall short again, the feeling within the boxing community towards him will be, well, he's always has a go. He always gives an account of himself and he turns up at the last minute. After this, he deserves a 10-week training camp to get a proper opportunity. That's what Ish Davis should get after this. And
I heard Turkey wanted to give him first refusal because of what he did to save the Wembley show.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And you've got to applaud the attitude. But win or lose, Ish Davis deserves a proper opportunity off the back of a proper training camp after this. Because, how many times can you go in? I know we've seen fighters win on short notice, but how many times can you go into these fights handicapped by not having proper training time? I'm sure he's been ticking over in the gym, but there's a difference between ticking over and knowing you've got a fight date locked in. So he deserves it in 2025, but he's got another opportunity to change his life. And obviously, financially, his life's changed this year. But now, on a professional career front, if you win on Saudi next Saturday, anyone that wins in Saudi next Saturday changes their life and their career. And Ish would be the epitome of that.
I don't even think winning, Liam. I think just getting paid changes your life. I think they just get a retainer anyway. So I think the fact that he turns up will change his life. I think they just get a fee, do they?
Yeah, no, I agree. I said that,
If he wins,
his professional career can change as well, yeah.
Absolutely unreal for him. And I'm going to say something crazy here, but I think, I've got to pick him for the upset. I have to pick him for the upset. As much as I doubt it will happen, I have to back my boy. I'm going to pick him for the upset.
Yeah, but it just adds another fascinating layer to the card.
Tough. Yeah. Virgil Ortiz on the deck twice. Last time out, 23 knockout wins in 24 wins. Yeah, it's going to be tough for Ish, definitely. But look, he's a tough man. I like Boachuk.
We've seen crazier upsets on short notice than what this one would be when you think about it.
Lucas saying he was meant to be fighting, so he had a full camp. Lucas just said so. Maybe he might not be as.
He was in training. Was in full camp, so I think he's possibly extended an existing camp. So as long as he times his weight cut right, I think he'll be bang on. I think he'll be all right. Look, he's never going to turn it down anyway, Warren. We're never going to turn it down. So.
I've just got the scorecards up from the Josh Kelly fight, and that he lost that 115-113, 115-114, and the third judge had it a draw. So it was only a majority decision on 8 days' notice.
Yeah, the cards were a bit close, though, weren't they, to be fair?
I think the cards were closer than the actual physical fight. I think we had it sort of 116, 112, something like that, didn't we? I think.
I had it 116.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, part of that Riyadh thing then he was meant to have, one of them midweek fight nights like Vong was on. Do you remember?
Oh, they're doing that again for this?
There must be. Yeah, they do that. They've done that with they've done it with Crawford, Madrimov. They've done it with Dubois, Joshua, didn't they? They didn't do it with Beterbiev, Bivol, I don't think.
No, they normally announce it at the start of fight week as well. So if we won't find out.
There you go. Then
I'm surprised Prince Patel hasn't called anybody out. Try get himself on there. He's calling out welterweights, cruiserweights, middleweights.
Evening, Prince, if you're watching.
Yeah, good evening.
No doubt he's in the chat under a burner. Right, where are we at next? Yes, a good luck to Ishmael Davis against Serhij Boachuk. He's, as Eddie Hearn said, you need a wheelbarrow to carry his balls around. So, yeah, credit to him. A few more to cover, boys, before we move on. Jaron Ennis and Teofimo Lopez is allegedly in negotiation for a joint ESPN and DAZN pay-per-view. Any thoughts on this? That would free up the Jack Catterall Barboza fight for the full WBO at 140.
I believe it when I see it.
Papa Lopez is getting bored again, so he needs to run his mouth about something. That's what
he is painful, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I'm sure there is some truth to it, but of course it has to be him that comes
in his life.
I don't think so.
He hasn't, has he?
Only on the streets, mate. Only on the mean streets.
Oh, that old chestnut. Even Bill Haney, yeah.
Yeah, look, all joking aside, I'm sure there is some truth to that rumor, but the fact it had to be Lopez Senior that comes out with it first before we hear even hinting from Eddie or Todd or someone like that, I think tells you everything you need to know.
I think he's trying to publicly negotiate the fight, isn't it, rather than letting them negotiate the fight and announcing it. It's
another power play from Tio, like we've seen him and his father do before. It's another power play. And the fact that they're chasing someone like Boots Ennis, let's be honest, his stock is pretty low right now after how his last month or so has gone. Tells you everything you need to know about where Tio's at as well.
Well, can I give my unpopular opinion? I don't think Tio's as popular as people think. I don't think he's that much of a draw. I think he was, but I don't believe he maximised his potential when he's had the wins that he's had. Do you get what I mean? So
I know what you mean, definitely. The Loma win, the Josh Taylor win.
Josh Taylor went stale. He's had momentum and just stopped it, and then thinks he can.
Yeah, agree with you, Pat.
So his biggest win against Loma happened during COVID, so there was no crowd there. By the time he defended those belts against Kambosos Jr., that was his first fight back in front of a crowd, and he got beat, didn't he? In the Hulu, but he got beat at MSG. So you had no fans there to adore him and see it up close. You had to go through a TV to watch him dethrone Loma. Loses it. Okay, his Josh Taylor performance was special. I'll give him a lot of credit for that. That's not a performance.
I think Taylor fought emotionally in that fight as well.
Yeah, but that's what Tio's going to do into fighters. He can get into your head. He can do it emotionally. But now he's chasing Boots Ennis, who, like I've just said, his stock is at an all-time low after the Karen rematch and what we found out about him refusing certain fights on Riyadh season. It just, it's not going to happen.
They'll both price themselves out of it, Liam, I think. They'll both price themselves out of it.
A top-ranked DAZN pay-per-view happening before they're both on the same platform just isn't happening. I'd love to be proven wrong, but it only happens if they ever move across to the same platform. It doesn't happen whilst ESPN and DAZN exist in as separate entities for me.
No, same. I agree.
All this means is we're waiting another 6 or 7 months for Teo to come back in a fight against an overmatched opponent that he's going to take 12 rounds to beat and then make every excuse under the sun. I've been in court. I had a drive-by shooting. You know what I mean?
I think he'll fight Keyshawn Davis eventually. I think that's the fight they'll make. They had that little interaction, didn't they? So he'll get beat by
Keyshawn Davis.
Oh, 100%. Keyshawn Davis will beat the brakes off him, I think.
Look, it's just a shame that. By contrast, let's talk about George Kambosos. Hasn't got the talent of Teofimo Lopez, but everything he's done since beating Teo, he's maximized every second.
Mate, that's made him a multi-millionaire that night against Teo.
Devin Haney twice, Maxi Hughes, which was a robbery for Maxi, Lomachenko in May this year. Everything he's done since then has been phenomenal, and he's marketed himself in the right way. Yeah, he's made exponential money.
Oh, he has, yeah. That's a fair shout, Pat, as well. The Hitchens, unification.
Teo
Teo
makes more excuses outside of the ring and blaming, I'm sure what he has going on with his but we've heard it enough. You're now using it 4 or 5 fights in a row. Just buckle down, get back to your boxing career and show the talent you have. Because if you don't fight Boots and then your fight is Keyshawn Davis and you lose to Keyshawn Davis, you will be dropped like a hot stone.
Yeah, he's done out here. He's got to be very, very careful.
People that barely give a fuck about him now will completely cut him off and not care. And that's broadcasters, that's sponsors, that's everything in it. His relationship with Top Rank, we know is delicate anyway. Todd DeBuff has come out and said many times, after he fought on the Super Bowl weekend, he said, look, we need to have a serious think about if we want to work with him going forwards. And now he carries on with these antics. Can't imagine working with his dad either. Imagine going to negotiations.
Oh, his dad's a knob.
Yeah, it's a waste of a real talent at this point. And I know it sounds funny to say that when he's beaten Lomachenko, when he's beaten a former undisputed champion in Josh Taylor, but everything else that goes on around him makes him so unlikable. You almost want him to get his face punched in because of everything else.
It's a circus. It is. It's a circus.
Do you think Eddie Hearn would try make the Josh Taylor rematch?
Nah, no interest in it from anyone. Nah, Taylor's just stock's too low at the minute for sure. Next one, the Matchroom schedule. I think it's due to be announced. I don't think it has been.
Due to be announced this week, isn't it?
Well, like there's rumors Pacheco's gonna headline in America at the end of January. Crocker and Donovan for IBF final eliminator for Boots on the 1st of March. There's potential other shows that I don't think have been locked in. Here you go. Yeah, Hawkan just put it in the comments. Thanks, Hawkan. Matchroom to announce schedule this week. I'm excited to see UK schedule. Favorite fights Crocker Donovan in March. Yeah, there you go. Crocker Donovan. That's pretty much done. IBF final eliminator for Jaron Ennis's belt. Crocker against Donovan. That would be a fantastic fight. I think in America he's looking at Bam Rodriguez, Diego Pacheco in Vegas at the end of January. I think Bam will get it Phoenix in February, March. But yeah, hopefully 2025 starts with a bang. January's not notoriously a boxing month, is it? January and July, I think you kind of get slower months. Yes, Hawkan, you're right. Cattrall, Barboza. Yeah, Jack Cattrall and Barboza going back and forth on X. I was seeing this morning. I was saying Jack told him to find his pen. So yeah, hopefully we see that. Look, yeah, that would be brilliant. That would be back-to-back Manchester shows. Chisora Wallen is the week before that as well. So yeah, hopefully these cards that are being spoken about do come off, because there is some decent ones. I think Matchroom especially are going to put a focus on the UK market that, by their own admission, they'll probably say, they didn't have a great year in their home country this year. Obviously, they've expanded Mexico, the United States, Saudi, XYZ, Puerto Rico. They're doing great on a world scale, but domestically, Queensbury wiped the floor with them this year. And I don't think that'll sit well with Eddie Hearn and Frank Smith and anyone else who's at the helm of Matchroom. So yeah, I'd imagine they'll be coming with an aggressive UK schedule this year, which is great news for all of us. Like Hawkan says, if they can pull off Cattrall, Barboza and Crocker Donovan within the space of 2 weeks, that's a firm step in the right direction on my behalf.
They've got to do it. They've absolutely, they've dropped the ball, they dropped the soap, so to speak, this year. They've absolutely butchered the UK market. And look, they sent out a survey just to UK fans about a month ago, and I can imagine the replies to that will be incredibly interesting. And if they get those replies from disgruntled UK fight fans and then deliver another subpar year, then people will vote with their feet. And the joke he used to make about Frank Warren shows that the arena is 40% full and everyone leaves early. That will start happening with Matchroom shows very, very quickly. People will lose interest. And if Frank isn't going to let the bar drop in the UK next year, especially with the move to the zone, that's only going to allow him to do more things. So put 2024 behind Matchroom. Some fighters have taken a pounding. Their stock has taken a pounding as well. Next year, get back on the horse, like Eddie says time and time again. Get back on the horse and go again. But another year domestically, I'm all for the expansion. It's great to see what they're trying to do around the world. But don't forget where your bread's buttered. Don't forget where you came from, which is, being part of the 4 promoter deal on Sky Sports and making that contract your own. Carl Froch, Anthony Joshua, Kell Brook, etc., helping you stock rise to get you to the position you're in. Don't forget that, because you wouldn't have the opportunity with all these American and worldwide superstars without what you've done back in the UK 8-10 years ago. So it needs to be a big year for Matchroom. Well
said. Belanga's homecoming in Puerto Rico with Sabril Matias on the undercard. Eddie said, yeah, that'd be decent. Pat, I did hear that Belanga's going to get a run out before a big fight against Plant or somebody like that in the summer. Lucas said he can't claim to focus on the UK, multiple US, Puerto Rico, Aussie shows, plus Monaco and Riyadh season stuff spread too thin. Completely agree. That was his issue, wasn't it? Just too many eggs in too many baskets in 2024. Big up Wayne Herman. Thanks for tuning in, my man.
I think Eddie's realised that he needs to stop spreading himself so thin. It's, to go from, say, London 1 week to Puerto Rico the next week is just too much. He needs to do a solid block in the UK, then a few weeks in America and vice versa. Yeah, George Lydiard have heard this. And also, if you heard it's a card with George Lydiard, Shannon Ryan, a couple of other good
prospects. That's this week, isn't it? Friday night.
Yeah, DAZN picks up. It's your call card. There's some prospects on that, actually. UK prospects.
Yeah, I did see that earlier. DAZN said that they've got that one. Yeah, Matchroom talking good to set some big events in Australia also. Yeah, they're focusing on that, aren't they, with Opataya?
They've got that co-pro now, so they've got to.
Yeah, Cambosos, Paro, Terramona Jr., Opataya, obviously Sky Nicholson. They've got quite a big stable of Aussie fighters now, don't they, Matchroom? So yeah, that's going to be a huge. I think they'll run Paro against Kambosos next year, regardless. I think that's
Paro against Kambosos makes even more sense now after Saturday night.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it didn't make sense at all if Paro won. I agree with that. Yeah, a couple more then, boys, before we wrap things up. At the WBC convention, Pat Sasoma Party glitch. IBF orders Lubin versus Holmes. Erickson Lubin, is it?
Sure.
Right. Okay. That must be at 154. Is it? What was I coming? Oh yeah, so WBC convention. The Turkey was there. Georgia Vasoli confirmed for Birmingham at the London. Okay, nice one, Håkan. Yeah, good stuff. That sounds like it might be a decent enough. Next gen, that Jan 31st one. He's reaffirmed the desire to make Canelo Crawford. Is there any chance that it happens at all, do you think? Because Crawford's been kept away from February the 22nd. I think he's got a niggle. Do we think there's any chance? Who will Canelo fight in May if it's not Crawford?
Who's another handpicks? Who's another up and coming handpicks opponent that he can beat the brakes off?
I think Eubanks holding out.
I was just going to say that.
Eubanks holding out on the Ben negotiations for it.
To be fair, I've never seen Canelo with an IBO belt, so there's always that. Never seen him with an IBO belt. It's the only one missing from this collection. Mate, I honestly don't think Canelo Crawford happens. There's like we spoke about other things. There's too much to lose and nothing really to gain from Canelo beating Crawford. I don't think it will be Eubank Jr. because Eubank Jr. will swallow his pen and go missing and then come back against another Kazakhstani win man or something at the back end of the summer. I don't know what Canelo's going to do. I said a minute ago, who's another up-and-coming prospect that he can beat the brakes off of? That's the path he's going down now. Cinco de Mayo, he won't do outside of Vegas, or he might go back home to Mexico. Has he got any mandatories for his belts? Can he just do a mandatory because he knows the governing bodies will let him do what he wants kind of thing? Canelo's becoming semi-irrelevant, isn't he? And that sounds funny to say, but the clamour for knowing Canelo's Cinco de Mayo opponent 2 or 3 years ago would start around this time of year, wouldn't it? You'd have whispers in the press. You'd have us getting excited about it. This year, you've not really heard anything. And I think that is people starting to vote with their feet, getting fed up from what they've seen of him since the Charlo fight in September last year.
Yeah, no, 100%. He needs a big one. And I know it sounds funny because he is the big one. Thanks to Rambler for tuning in as well. Wayne said Eubank. Rambler said, was he part of the 4 promoters that thought he replaced them? Warren Hatton, Hennessy, Maloney. Yes, I think he did replace them, to be fair.
He might have been starting and doing co-pros with them then, but he was definitely in and around that, wasn't he, Eddie?
Yeah, well, he got on doing the prize fighter stuff, didn't he, Hearn? That was his kind of way into boxing, I think, on Sky Sports. Talking Canelo Crawford at the Allegiant in Vegas on the Cinco de Mayo weekend. Turkey wants to make this fight, and Matchroom will promote the fight. Remember Eddie and Canelo connection. Look, sign me the hell up for that, Pat, if we can see that. That would be phenomenal. But yeah, I'm skeptical as to whether it will happen like the other 2 guys are, for sure. 2 more then. Just a bit of homage to pay to Mr. Emmanuel Pacquiao for his induction into the World Boxing Hall of Fame, which was announced this week. Any thoughts or comments on that, boys?
It's Hall of Fame.
More than deserved. I thought he'd have been in there before now, to be honest. But you've got to be retired a certain amount of time, haven't you? Love Manny. As you've seen, I've got signed memorabilia that's got pride of place in a box under a load of shit in my bedroom. But no, in all seriousness, I love Manny. I've watched him for years. I remember him at featherweight, super featherweight. I've watched him all the way through. So yeah, it's more than well deserved. He's an icon in the Philippines, and he's done a lot for world boxing. Yeah, love him.
Eight division world champion. I think if you want to talk about Hall of Fame, Manny Pacquiao should be dictionary definition of it. What he's done for boxing is never say never attitude. He'd take on all comers. He'd get back in with a man that put flipping concrete in his gloves and go out there and rewrite the wrongs. He's done everything that could have been asked for him. The only blot is the fact the Mayweather fight for politics reasons happened 6 years too late. If you want to, that's the only thing. But a hell of a career. He's a congressman out in the Philippines. He does everything for his people. Maybe had an affiliation
I'm
for
not
me. We're gonna move away from that one.
Skip through them weight divisions rather quickly, didn't we?
Mate, he likes his food. What can I say? Just had a good appetite, mate. He likes 6 meals a day. But now, look, take nothing away from him. He's more than deserving, and he would, like you said, Jay, he would have been in it already if there wasn't a criteria of being retired for a set amount of time. But maybe this finally puts to bed the bollocks rumours of him coming back to fight Barry or Amir Khan or people like that. Hopefully that.
Stay retired, Pac-Man. Stay retired, please. Last topic of the night. Vladimir Klitschko talking about the comeback against Daniel Dubois to take George Foreman's record of the oldest heavyweight world champion. Eddie's talked about it. Frank's mentioned it in interviews. Is this a real thing, or is it just,
it's a real thing, but I think it's nonsense. I mean, it's like Johnny Nelson wanting to come back to box Marco Huck.
Remember? Yeah, remember that.
Because he's going to take his record.
Johnny was a bit younger than what Vlad is now, and I know Vlad lives a life, and he doesn't necessarily drink or smoke and drug. But look, he's my age. How old is he? 46.
Must be late 40s, Vlad. Must be.
Yeah, I don't want to see it, man. I don't want to see
it.
Listen. What would and to be fair, he would beat Pulev, but that's not a proper title. He ain't coming back for that. Yeah, I know we're talking about putting him on par with George Foreman and doing what George Foreman did. George Foreman beat Michael Moorer. Daniel Dubois isn't Michael Moorer. Michael Moorer was stationary, walked onto it, very little lateral movement. Daniel Dubois will make a mess of Klitschko, unfortunately. Klitschko's not what he was. He wasn't what he was towards the end of his career, let alone out of the ring. What's he been out? 5, 6, 7 years?
Yeah, it must be about 5 years since the
7 years. 2017 was the AJ fight.
Wow. I liked how Liam did that then.
Yeah, mate, I wanted to get it right. Even I've got the right amount of fingers as well for you, mate.
Is that 7 for you, Liam?
Look, my view on it is a governing body has sanctioned Mike Tyson to have a professional boxing fight this year.
Yeah, I mean, it could
his
happen.
age. And Klitschko's 48 from just having a look. A governing body will sanction this.
But they could send a man to his death.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
For me.
The risk, if they're going to do it as a proper world title fight, you're not going to get any of the BS concessions you got in the Jake Paul fight. It won't be 16 out gloves. It won't be 2 minutes rounds. Daniel Dubois is young and hungry and with a point to prove. And bless him, because of his way his mind works as well, he will just go out, seek and destroy. He won't have any of this. This is a legend. He's old. I should respect him. He will go out on a seek and destroy mission and won't stop until he's nailed to the canvas, will he? And then that's where Klitschko gets hurt. Klitschko is doing great things in Ukraine with his brother. He's moving. I think the rumor was he was going to run for election in another part of Ukraine, so you had both of them as mayors. Stick to doing that. You don't need to come back to boxing. You have a legend. You have a legacy as an individual and with your brother. Don't come back and tarnish it. Arguably,
go
on. Arguably, your legacy for some people, not for us, but for some people, was tarnished by the last 2 fights of your career and losing. But we know where you're at that point. But some people always hold that against you. If you came back and lost to Dubois, be 8 years later by the time that fight happens. Don't do it. Hopefully, there's enough people around him as well that will tell him not to do it.
I mean, he's not an idiot. He's a clever man, right? He's an educated man. He speaks multiple languages and whatnot. And he's been in and around boxing for 30 years. He can see that the landscape is very different from the early 90s, right? When George Foreman did it, there was an opportunity. There was a gap. There isn't an opportunity there for Klitschko. He's trying to create an opportunity. I get why he's doing it. He's sitting at home thinking, do you know what? I could beat these guys. You can't, mate. I'm telling you now, you cannot. Look at you know, there's heavyweights that were in the mix a couple of years ago that are miles off it. I'll use Dillian Whyte as an example. Dillian Whyte was in the mix a couple of years ago. He couldn't be further from the mix now. I think he would beat Klitschko. I think Derek Chisora would give Klitschko nightmares now. I don't want to see it. I'll watch it.
When you're 7 years inactive and you're nearly 50 years old, you're not going to compete with the guys in their 20s and 30s. It's just not possible.
Look, crazier things have happened, and as much as the IBF, they are probably the most likely organisations to sanction something like this. I think out of all of them, I put the IBF at the top of the list. They won't let Josh Warrington and Kakashi fight for a world title, but they're flipping bring back Klitschko that held their belt to ransom for the best part of 10 years. Yeah, of course they will. It's a scary prospect, and I hope it's one he's talked out of, or he tries to get a license and he doesn't pass getting a license.
Look, ultimately, and boxing and common sense don't go hand in hand, but you'd hope common sense would prevail, and they'd just say, no, it's too dangerous. It's not a crossover fight. It's not a YouTuber fighting a retired boxer. It's a killer, reigning world champion fighting a former world champion that's nearly 50, that's 8 years removed from that life, and he wasn't that good towards the end, was it? Let's be real.
No, it wasn't.
Joshua beat a shadow. I think Tyson Fury did damage to him that was irreparable with the age that he was at the time and stuff. So yeah, not for me. I'll watch it. We'll probably do a live and do really well, and it'll be great viewing. But
we'll have a great week off the back of the fight, but we'll be watching it through a pillow. That's how it's going to go.
Yeah.
For the views, baby.
It could be one of them things. Rambler said Hatton got sacked by email. I think he's talking about with Sky, and he was very bitter. Yeah, I do vaguely remember that. Actually,
who's that? Sorry.
When Ricky Hatton got Sky promotions.
Oh, right, okay. Sky,
I do remember that now.
Look what they did with Adam Smith. Adam Smith worked for them for nearly 30 years. They didn't even give him a VT, like a montage. He just wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, it was bizarre, that one, definitely. I think that'll is there anything I've missed, lads, that you can think of this week, or is that it?
Not for me,
there's stuff coming out of the WBC convention, but need a bit more clarity before we can talk about it. It's this Grand Prix tournament.
Cameron's there lodging a bid share. She's trying to get
all the bids and stuff for tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of the bids tomorrow.
We'll see what happens overnight.
So they've announced one thing that Mauricio's announced today is joining forces with Riyadh Season for a boxing Grand Prix tournament. So 128 fighters across 5 or 6 different weight classes. Open scoring. It will be 5 events in Saudi. Don't know how that's going to work, but that's Mauricio's grand idea for this year. Is this crazy thing.
Yeah, I saw Turkey Al Sheikh won Man of the Year at the WBC convention.
The bidding day tomorrow for fights and fights out how the rankings are going to go.
Fucking checks. Yeah. Why is he winning? That's like Bruce Jenner winning Woman at Year. All Turkey's doing is signing fucking checks. Promoters are doing their job and he's paying the bill. That's, for me, he's been in it a year, has he?
Year as of last weekend,
just over it. Well, no, Fury and Garner was about 14 months ago, wasn't it, or something?
But he literally signs checks. That's all he does. Yeah, I know they're saying he's responsible for bringing all these fights together. No, the promoters are responsible. He's the guy that pays the bill.
Yeah, like Luca's comment there. Right. Tomorrow night, I think we're going to get onto some prediction shows for this weekend's boxing. If anybody would be interested in joining us, for sure, please do. We're going to be looking at the DAZN card in Australia tomorrow. There'll be a live watch along for Justice Hooney. He's in an 8-rounder at heavyweight, and Connor Wallace, a light heavyweight in a 10-rounder. So we'll be live from about 11 a.m. for that, and maybe 12 p.m. for the main event. We'll be there for the watch along Saturday. Of course, we will be. Then a huge week next week, potential for live streams most nights. I think with Usyk Fury 2 fight week, we've got prediction shows. This show next week will be absolutely stacked with fight previews. All sorts going on. A new A fight week technically as well in the midst of Usyk Fury 2 fight week. So yeah, it's going to be stuff firing on everywhere. But as always, massive. Yeah, cheers, Luca. Appreciate that as always, my friend. Thanks for tuning in. Rambler as well. DJ Pat, Wayne Herman, Hawkan, Dave at Roper. Thank you very much, everybody. Sorry, Muscle Brown was there as well earlier. Thanks very much to all of you guys for for tuning in as you do every week. Much appreciated. Team Usyk, Wayne says, absolutely, mate. Look forward to that. 4 for 5 blocks here. Hope you're well, my friend. Just signing off for the evening. Good to talk to you as well, Pat, as always, mate.
See you, Pat.
Thank you for watching that. Yeah, and no worries. 4 for 5 block. You can always watch it back. We're live a lot. Don't worry about that. We'll be there. We'll be here tomorrow night as well. So yeah, we'll do the prediction shows tomorrow. Live watch along for the Aussie card. Live watch along for the DAZN card Saturday, and all sorts on for Usyk versus Fury 2 fight week next week. Liam, Jay, as always, thank you very much for joining me, and we will see you guys tomorrow night for the prediction shows, and Aussie tomorrow for the live watch along.
Cheers, everybody.
Thank you.